Hello everyone, it's time for comprehension. Please make sure you've got your pencil and paper ready. You can always pause the video to read through the text to yourself and look for the answer. I will start from this side of the page, the first line over here. Fear of this death drove him mad with anger, and anger only made him stronger. He would fight to the death to save himself. He would never give in. Right, we're talking about Grendel here. It was amazing that the great hall of Heorot was not split asunder that night. So ferocious was the wrestling between these two giants. Locked together in this deadly embrace, they reeled and writhed about the mead hall, so that all the Danes outside could hear a dreadful cacophony of crashing and crying resounding through Heorot. Gold-worked trappings and iron braces, all well made and sturdy, simply snapped and buckled as the two of them in deadly earnest wrestled and grappled and struggled with one another. Okay, my first question is, what drove Grendel mad with anger? What drove Grendel mad with anger? You can pause the video here and write down your answer. My next question is, what would it mean if something was split asunder? It's the second paragraph here. It was amazing that the great hall of Heorot was not split asunder that night. Tell me, what would it mean if something was split asunder? There was no ground given in this terrible fight, no mercy either. So they fought on, this Grendel now, fear-soaked, his strength failing him, and brave Beowulf, fist still clenched around the monster's arm, and knowing he had only to cling on and not let go to banish to hell forever the damned one, God's and his own worst enemy. Clearly outside they heard the monster's demon scream, his hideous howling screech. The sound of it chilled every listener to the bone. Yet hope gladdened them too, for these they knew were not human cries, but rather the strident sobbing of the beast in agony and terror. Seeing Grendel thus pinioned by the Geatish hero and tortured and weakened by his pain, Beowulf's companions in arms drew their swords and sprang now to his side to help him in his fight, to finish if they could this murderer's wretched life. They were not to know, Beowulf's battle friends, that no man-made sword, no steel could pierce this crucial creature's enchanted hide. Okay, my next question is, what does strident mean? It's right over here. What does the word strident mean? My next question is, why were the men's swords useless against Grendel? Read through the text. You can always pause to write down your answer. Only naked strength could end his unnatural life. Grendel understood this, and he knew he was weakening, that his end must be near. He could think of no possible way to escape. Great-hearted Beowulf, sensing his sagging strength, had him still by the arm, now twisted it and turned it until the shoulder muscles split apart, the tendons snapped, the bone joints burst, and Grendel's arm was ripped and wrenched, bleeding from his body. Then Grendel fled armless and half dead already from Heorot. Over the moors he staggered and stumbled, through the fens, back to his den, knowing all the while that this was his last day on earth, that his life's blood was draining from him. He was dying his death. So Beowulf, the good, had triumphed in his bitter fight with Grendel, the evil one. Right, my question is, what does Beowulf tear from Grendel's body? Pause your video and write down your answer. Thus were all Danish hopes fulfilled, and Beowulf's promise to them too. He had destroyed the great destroyer with his bare hands, saved Hrothgar's royal meadhouse and the Danish people from further terrors, and given them back the sanctuary of their hearth and their home, so that every one should know that the tyrant was truly dead and their grief finally at an end. The hero hung high in the gables of Heorot, where all could see it and marvel at it too, that whole torn off limb, shoulder, arm, and hand, gruesome witness to the monster's violent death. By the next morning, the news of the great fight at Heorot had spread throughout the land. They came in their hundreds from the seashore, from the fens and moors and mountains, from near and far, to see this hideous limb hanging there in the hall, and then to follow the fiendish foe's last footprints through the shadowy forest and the moor mist, tracking the trail of blood to the monster's marsh pool. To this remote and dismal place, the dying monster had come only hours before, the last of his blood ebbing fast with everything faltering step. Here he had dived to his miserable death, his hot wound blood bubbling and boiling in the brackish waves. So he had sunk at last to his cavernous lair below, and had died there alone in his agony, to be welcomed back in hell where he belonged. Beowulf's marvellous feat was now the talk of Heorot and all the Danish lands beyond. None was his equal, they said, none braver, nor more worthy even to be king here in Denmark in his own right. Okay, I will stop there today. My next question is, what did Beowulf do with Grendel's arm and why? You can always pause the video here and read through these 2 pages to find the answer. My last question for today is, how did Grendel die? How did Grendel die? Again, read through these 2 pages and write your answer. Okay, we'll mark our answers together now. My first question was, what drove Grendel mad with anger? We'll go back on the first page I read. Fear of this death drove him mad with anger. So the answer is fear of his death. My next question was, what would it mean if something was split asunder? Split asunder is in the next paragraph here, and it means torn or ripped into separate pieces. The next question was for page 50, when I asked, what does the word strident mean? The word strident was over here in the middle paragraph. Yet hope gladdened them too, for these they knew were not human cries, but rather the strident sobbing of the beast. So the word strident means very loud or harsh. If you've got something similar to loud or harsh, you can mark your answer correct. My next question was, why were the men's swords useless against Grendel? That's right here at the bottom of this page. They were not to know, Beowulf's battle friends, that no man-made sword, no steel could pierce this cruel creature's enchanted hide. So that tells us that the man-made swords could not kill him, the swords could not pierce through him. Right, my next question was, what does Beowulf tear from Grendel's body? That's quite easy, it's on the next page. It's his arm. Okay, the next question was, what did Beowulf do with Grendel's arm and why? That's on the next page here. I'll read the paragraph for you. So that everyone should know that the tyrant was truly dead and their grief finally at an end, the hero hung high in Gables of Heorot, where all could see it and marvel at it too, the whole tone of limb, shoulder, arm, and hand, gruesome witness to the monster's violent end. So he hung it high in the gables of Heorot. He did this so that everyone can see and witness with their own eyes that Grendel has been defeated and truly dead. If you have just written what he did with the arm but did not explain why he did it, then your answer is wrong. You also had to explain why he hung it high in Heorot. My last question was, how did Grendel die? Now, they have described his death in detail. So if you've written something close to that description, something like he went to the forest, back to his lair, he was critically injured and bleeding, and he bled to death in agony. If you have written something like he was bleeding to death, that is also correct. If you wrote something from the text, for example, on the last page here he had dived to his miserable death, his hot wound blood bubbling and boiling in the brackish waves. So he had sunk at last his carnivorous lair below and had died there alone in his agony. If you've written something similar to this or copied the text from here, you can mark your answer correct. Right? That's all for today. I will see you next time. Bye.